Are you moving to West Cambridge in Cambridge, Massachusetts? In this video, we're going to find out what you need to know. Stay tuned. So West Cambridge is perhaps the most famous neighborhood in all of Cambridge, Massachusetts, and it's located, if you will, to the west of Harvard Square. You could make a case for Harvard Square as being part of West Cambridge, but Harvard Square in and of itself is a place, a destination that's deserving of its own video. So in this video, we're going to consider the neighborhood of West Cambridge to the west of Harvard Square. And it's home to some 18,000 residents, and it's bordered by Harvard Square, the Charles River and Memorial Drive to the south, Concord Avenue to the north, and Fresh Pond Parkway and Fresh Pond to the west. And its zip code is 02138, the most famous zip code in Cambridge. And by the measure of many people, West Cambridge is the most sought after neighborhood of all in Cambridge. It includes Brattle Street, the most famous street in all of Cambridge, which starts in Harvard Square and then continues out west into the heart of West Cambridge. And it's the street with the most substantial, large single-family homes in the city. It was once upon a time, back before the American Revolution, known as Tory Row, and home to the Loyalists who supported the crown. And they were the establishment set back in the day. And today, these homes can sell for in excess of $5 million. It's a home or a street of very substantial homes. As a real estate agent, I've had the great good fortune to be involved in listing several of these homes over the last 20 plus years, and they are truly special. So West Cambridge, when people think of West Cambridge, they think of Brattle Street, and it is part and parcel of this neighborhood. But if you're thinking of moving to West Cambridge, I wanted to share with you some additional information that is useful in understanding the neighborhood. Well, West Cambridge is more than one place. There are some named neighborhoods that are found within it. So on the other side of Fresh Pond Parkway, closer to Belmont, are two neighborhoods, Coolidge Hill and Larchwood. And these are essentially more like drive-to addresses, and each is quite small. Coolidge Hill borders on Fresh Pond Parkway and Jerry's Landing Road, and on the other side on Coolidge Ave. And it's just a couple meandering streets that define the entire neighborhood. Very rarely does a house come up for sale in Coolidge Hill. It's entirely single-family homes, and it's abutting the Shady Hill School campus for students up through grade 8, and as well the BB&N upper school campus for high school students. Buckingham, Brown, and Nichols is what BB&N stands for. And so you've got in Coolidge Hill, in West Cambridge, these two private school campuses, and then the neighborhood Coolidge Hill made up of a few small streets that make it an exclusive enclave. And then nearby, also off Fresh Pond Parkway, is the Larchwood neighborhood. And Larchwood is another drive-to address, if you will, generally speaking. And it's made up of just a half dozen meandering streets. So Larchwood Drive, Meadow Way, Fresh Pond Lane, Oldie Road, Larch Road, and then, of course, Fresh Pond Parkway, and then as well a little bit of Huron Avenue. So Larchwood is this neighborhood at the furthest extreme of West Cambridge. And it might be the most tucked away neighborhood in all of Cambridge. It certainly is the most tucked away neighborhood of West Cambridge. And it's a lovely neighborhood, very many beautiful single family homes, mostly restored. And it's a sub neighborhood of West Cambridge. So in addition to Coolidge Hill and Larchwood, Another sub-neighborhood of West Cambridge is Observatory Hill along Concord Avenue. And actually, Observatory Hill as a neighborhood straddles both West Cambridge and neighboring Neighborhood 9. And it lays out along Concord Avenue. And in Observatory Hill, you'll find the original high-rise bakery and cafe on Concord Avenue near the intersection with Huron Avenue. It's a West Cambridge institution and very special place. And people go in there for baked goods and fresh coffee and sandwiches and soup, and they've got takeaway meals. It's a super cafe. And of course, they're baking bread on the premises, which is super special. The Huron Village neighborhood is also found in West Cambridge. And essentially, it begins near that intersection of Concord and Huron Avenue. And then Huron Avenue winds around the bend into the heart of Huron Village. In 2021, Formaggio moved from its former location at the bend in Huron Avenue down into the heart of Huron Village, taking over the former space occupied by the Fresh Pond grocery store, which is no more. And now Formaggio has taken over that space in the heart of the village. There's a restaurant or two as well found in the heart of Huron Village and Cambridge Trust Bank. And it really is this quaint little village in the heart of West Cambridge and is, again, one of the named neighborhoods of West Cambridge. I mentioned Harvard Square, which you could think of as part of West Cambridge, but we're going to consider that separately. And I have in other videos on the channel, so you can look for those. So that's sort of West Cambridge neighborhoods, if you will, in a nutshell. What's nice is that West Cambridge is bordering on the Charles River along Memorial Drive and Fresh Pond, which is the Fresh Pond Reservation. It's the water source for the city of Cambridge. The water treatment facility plant is found on the shores of Fresh Pond. And what's nice for West Cambridge residents is these are real resources. You can walk along the Charles River, and that's wonderful. Even just driving along the river is very nice. In season on Sunday, they shut down the Memorial Drive to car traffic on Sundays so people can really enjoy it more like a park. And then everyone's out on those days to walk and bike and enjoy the river's edge without the passing whiz of car traffic. As for Fresh Pond, wow, that's such a great resource. Right at the parking area for Fresh Pond in West Cambridge is Kingsley Park, which is this big open green space where many dog walkers come to let their dogs frolic and befriend one another. Fresh Pond is very popular with West Cambridge residents because you can take a 2.25 mile path around the pond. And this is very popular with people walking and jogging, and dogs are allowed off leash. And as just mentioned, Kingsley Park is a place they gather. So it's very popular with dog owners in the neighborhood. And then in the winter, kids will sled down the hill at Kingsley Park. So it's great to have water resources on the edges of West Cambridge, Charles River, and Fresh Pond. Brattle Street, which I mentioned at the beginning with its many famous single-family homes, also includes the Longfellow House and Longfellow Park in front of it, which are wonderful resources. Longfellow House is a historic landmark, and it's run by the Park Service as a museum. And it's nice that one of these major stately homes on Brattle Street is open to the public and surrounded by beautiful grounds that make for a special outing if you find your way down Brattle Street. Just walking down Brattle Street is a treat. As for schools, I mentioned Shady Hill School and the BB&N Upper School in the Coolidge Hill neighborhood. The BB&N Lower School campus is also found in West Cambridge at Buckingham Street, where Buckingham Street meets Craigie Street. And then the BB&N Middle School campus is found on Sparks Street in West Cambridge. In addition, there is a Cambridge public school, the Tobin Montessori Elementary School, and the Vassal Lane Upper School. And it's interesting, the Cambridge public system gives the word or title upper school to its middle school grades. So the Vassal Lane Upper School is for students grades 5 through 8. But at any rate, the building that contains both the Tobin Montessori and the Vassal Lane Upper School, located on Vassal Lane, close to Concord Avenue, is slated for. And so as I make this video, they're getting ready to begin this multi-year, multi-million-dollar project. And if they accomplish the objective, the new building serving these schools in this location will open in 2025. So lots ahead at the Tobin and Vassal Lane campus with its complete rebuild and reinvention. So that's exciting eventually for the neighborhood and the students. The universities also have a felt presence in West Cambridge, of course, Harvard University, and it has the Radcliffe Yard in West Cambridge, close to Harvard Square, and it's found between Garden Street, Appian Way, and Brattle Street. And the Harvard admissions office is found here, as well as some substantial other buildings, the Schlesinger Library. It's a beautiful green space, and it is Harvard's main felt presence in West Cambridge. They also have additional buildings, as you'd expect, in West Cambridge. Harvard is a big part of Cambridge and a big part of West Cambridge. And many residents of West Cambridge are working at Harvard or attending school at Harvard. And so there is, a felt presence of Harvard in West Cambridge. Lesley University recently acquired the theological campus laid out on Brattle Street, just outside of Harvard Square. This is known as their South Campus now. It's a beautiful collection of stately stone buildings that are really lovely. And I'm actually grateful that this collection of school buildings ended up remaining what it is, which is a campus for students. So Lesley, which serves mainly people studying to be in the field of education, has taken over this set of buildings on Brattle Street. Beautiful campus. Interestingly enough, in the last few weeks, a film with George Clooney as director had some scenes filmed on the Lesley campus, and they were pretending it was Yale University. And so for a day or so, there were flags flying on this campus on Brattle Street that said Yale. So at the edge of Harvard Square and on the doorstep of Harvard University, we had a pop-up Yale University for Hollywood Magic for a day. It's very interesting. As for getting around West Cambridge, yes, it's easy enough to walk and bicycle. There's also bus lines serving Mount Auburn Street and Huron Avenue and Concord Avenue. These are the main thoroughfares that bring people in and out of Harvard Square, and people taking buses on these routes can change to the subway at the underground station in Harvard Square. So for West Cambridge, the main drags more or less all move west to east, east to west on the map. So along the river, Memorial Drive, and just above it, Mount Auburn Street, and then just above that, Brattle Street, and just above that, Huron Avenue, and above that, Concord Avenue. So mainly the main drags are moving west to east, and then many of the side streets, the residential side streets, are more or less moving north to south. So, these side streets include Larch Road and Grosier Road and Lakeview Avenue and Fairweather Street, Appleton, Sparks, and so there's a collection of wonderful residential side streets that make up West Cambridge. Cambridge is a dense city, and it's rare that you can find a collection of single-family homes with larger lots. And this is what you often find throughout West Cambridge. And again, if you're moving here from another part of the country, you might find West Cambridge lots to be small. But by Cambridge city standards, which is one of the densest cities in the United States, West Cambridge lots on average are larger and feature front yards and backyards and some space separating themselves from neighbors on either side, generally speaking. So this is what makes West Cambridge very appealing to many people. It has a single family spaciousness to it that many people like. The real estate is expensive. So as I make this video in 2021, average cost of a single family is $2.9 million in West Cambridge. Average cost of a multifamily is $1.8 million, and average cost of a condominium is $1 million. And again, these are averages, but they are significant and make known that it's more expensive to purchase a property in West Cambridge. There are condominiums as well found in West Cambridge here and there. And so it's not entirely made up of single families. Single families, multifamily, condominiums, all property types are found in West Cambridge. It's just that the neighborhood is famous for its single family homes. People dream of owning a big, beautiful single family in West Cambridge, either on Brattle Street or on one of the side streets. And they're beautiful, lovely homes. As an agent, I've worked with many buyers and sellers over the last 20 plus years in West Cambridge. I myself lived for a number of years on Lexington Avenue off Brattle Street. So I know this neighborhood and the real estate in it very well. And I've included a link to my website in the description below if you're curious to see what's now for sale or has recently sold. Obviously, I'm happy to connect with you as well at any time by text, telephone, or email as you give thought to moving to West Cambridge and buying a home in this neighborhood. I hope this general overview of West Cambridge has been useful and helpful to you if you're thinking of moving here. And there's a lot more to know about West Cambridge. In the description below, I've included a link to my neighborhood guide, which I hope you'll check out. And I am excited to connect with you as you look to learn more about West Cambridge. Take care.